You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk. How are you today? Sunday, February 28th, the last day of February. Yay. Hate February. Shortest month. Feels like the longest month. Although the months are flying by as I work remotely now, moving up to 1 year almost working remotely. Hard to believe. Not a bad weekend weather-wise as far if you don't like snow. Not about a lot of sunshine, but we're getting rid of the snow cover here in the Northeast. We're live from East Greenbush, New York. Lots to cover today. I do want to thank my guest from Friday, Matt Brust, from the former standout from St. John's. We had a great conversation about his career, his short career at North Carolina, and his more productive career with Louis Carnesecca at St. John's in the Big East and some of that. And I think Matt will be joining us again soon for our Big East tournament show, which I'll talk to you about in a bit. Do want to mention again, thank you to the groups that allow me to share. Again, I promise you, if you're watching this, there'll be content that applies to you. Today we'll be covering the NCAA. We'll be covering, we'll talk about some of the games that had tournament implications yesterday. We'll look quickly at the NCAA replacement plan, bubble watch, a little bit of bracketology. We'll talk about Major League Baseball. We're going to talk about the Yankees, the Mets, a little bit of stuff around the league. I want to focus a little bit on Tony La Russa's comeback, managing the White Sox. And we'll talk about the NBA, the Knicks, the Nets, and a little bit of other information. We'll probably skip the NFL today. There's a lot of stuff going on with the NFL, but, most of it's all rumor and conjecture, and there's just not much to talk about, right? So a couple of quick announcements. Friday, March 5th, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, live, my guests will be Tony Red Bruin and Eric Santifer, former Syracuse standouts. They were there at the beginning of the Big East. You'll hear me say this in the promo that I post later. They were there when the Big East, not today's Big East, when the Big East was born and it became the Beast of the East. Some great rivalries were developed here in the East. They played under the legendary Jim Boeheim. Love him or hate him, he's a legend in the game of college basketball. And that league was just full of huge personalities, as I talked about with Matt Bruss, and I will continue to talk about with Tony and Eric on Sunday. On Friday. Good morning, Rick Sherlock. How are you? Nice to see you this morning. You beat Dave Guyette again this morning. Bill Pulver. Good morning. As I started to mention, my guest coming up Friday would be Tony Bruin and Eric Santifer. I want to mention that my goal is to really, starting with Matt Bruss last week, is I'm going to focus on some former players that have played in both the conference tournaments in the Big East and then NCAA standouts, players who have played in this NCAA tournament in the past. So we're going to talk a lot about that on Fridays for the next few weeks, because some of the reasons for that are we're going to have several specials coming up outside of our normal schedule. On Monday, March 8th, from 7 to 9 p.m., we're going to do a Big East tournament preview. We're going to have lots. I'll co-host that with Mac and Jack from the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Not sure if Jack will be with us. He'll be in Florida, so we're not sure if his technological skills will allow him to join, but we'll see. And we've got lots of other guests coming up that have participated in the Big East tournament, maybe covered the Big East tournament. We'll have predictions. We'll have some analysis. We'll have some fun. during that couple hours. Then the week before the Final Four, on March 31st, I believe, Wednesday, 7 to 9, we will do a Final Four preview show. Again, TGI Sports Talk will be hosting it in conjunction with Northeast Streaming Sports. Mac and Jack will be hopefully my co-host again that night. Big Shaw will be part of the show, and we'll have lots of guests that we'll be talking about more coming up for that. Guys, looking down the road, too, we're going to do the NFL Draft live. We're going to go live at 7 o'clock. I think it's April 29th, so be planning ahead. We're going to do the show live as the NFL Draft, the first round of the NFL Draft. I'm not doing, 4 or 5 days, 12-hour days for the NFL Draft, but we're going to do round 1 at least. I might be on for round 2. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll be on 7 to whenever it's done. 11:30. Usually it's done the first round. Well, it'll be a lot of fun. We'll have a lot of guests come on, and it'll be fun. And then we could potentially down the road have a live show from Springfield. Mac from the Mac and Jack Sports Show is trying to get some access to the Hall of Fame inductions for the NBA. I don't think it's just the NBA. I think it's, again, basketball Hall of Fame inductions, so it could be more than NBA players. I'm not sure who actually is going in right now. But we'll talk more about that as we go forward. So lots of great stuff coming up, guys. I hope you join us. If you can't join us live those nights or days, feel free to do it. Feel free to watch it afterwards. But feel free to join us. That's always fun, too. Your feedback those days is a lot of fun. The feedback here... oh, crap. I still got the wrong thing up here. So our show today, hold on one second. I was fooling around my banners before. So today is our Sunday Stream of Consciousness edition. We're covering the NCAA, the Yankees-Mets, Major League Baseball, Tony La Russa, much, much more. I'm going to start with the NCAA, though, and we'll get into Major League Baseball. We're going to get, we're going to spend a lot more time on Major League Baseball today. And we will in the weeks to come, obviously, get more and more in depth in there. Then we'll jump a little bit into the NBA. I may talk about the NFL a little bit, but too much rumor, conjecture, everything's, up in the air there. So let's start with the NCAA. Some games of interest yesterday that are going to have some great effect on, the tournament. Just some games that I pointed out. Again, Baylor loses its first game. They lose, I guess, fairly handily to Kansas, but I can't fault Baylor too much. They're still one of the top 2 teams in the country. They're still looking at a number 2 seed or a number 1 seed and probably the 2nd seed overall, depending on how they finish out the regular season in the Big 12 tournament. But again, they, like everybody else, just came off a pretty long pause. And it can be difficult to come back from those things. I'm here, guys. I'm sorry. That's 2 days in a row I've done that. I got too many mouses I'm trying. Mice? Is it mouses or mice? I have no idea. Somebody help me out. Billy's goal this year is to learn the starters for the Yankees. Well, we'll talk about that now. Yes, Billy Randolph is gone, and his name is not spelled with an F. You can probably figure out how you do spell it from that comment, I would hope. So anyway, let's talk about some other games. Baylor loses, not a huge deal. Louisville beats Duke. 80-73, big win for Louisville, a tough loss for Duke. Duke's been on a roll. Mises, the pieces. Multiple mice I'm working. I guess that's the way I should say that. Some other games. Oregon beat Stanford. Another game. Let me go back to Duke. Duke had played their way onto the bubble. Not sure. We'll talk a little bit about some of the teams that are locks. We'll talk about the teams that are bubbles, on the bubble, trying to get on the bubble. some of the things that I see that, there's some of the bracketology things I see are just crazy. I mean, for instance, Nebraska beat Minnesota yesterday at home. Now, Nebraska's a middling team in the Big Ten, but some of the bracketology guys, a lot of them, Joe Lenardi, who I really respect, included, have Minnesota in the tournament before yesterday anyway. And they have yet to win a road game. I talked about this last week. Now they're 0-9 on the road. I don't see how this team can be in the NCAA tournament. Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma. They're probably both in. A big win for Oklahoma State, and probably not a bad loss for Oklahoma. So, pest control. No, mice. Had a little mouse problem. I'm working too many at a time. Other games, NC State or North Carolina beats Florida State. Florida State's one of my favorites to get to the Final Four. My personal favorites. They got a great team, great coach in Leonard Hamilton. It was a shame that they didn't play the tournament last year because they were playing great basketball, returned a lot of kids, and they're really kind of ramping up towards building momentum towards the tournaments. But it's so a big win for North Carolina. I'm thinking that win probably gets North Carolina in the tournament if they weren't already. Xavier with a big win over Creighton. Creighton's a lock in the Big East, second place behind Villanova. Got a really solid team. Xavier on the bubble, big win for them. Texas Tech over Texas. They're probably both getting in. Texas is reeling a little after a big start and some COVID pauses of their own. Utah beats USC yesterday. USC's definitely going to be in the tournament from the Pac-12. They may only get 3 teams in from the Pac-12, but that's going to hurt USC from a seeding standpoint for sure. Loyola of Chicago probably cemented their way into the tournament regardless what happens in their conference tournament. With a win over Southern Illinois. Really good team. Good, well-coached team. Georgia Tech probably put Syracuse season to bed unless they do something crazy in the ACC tournament with an 84-77 win over the Orange yesterday. Again, not a bad loss for Syracuse necessarily, but they just don't have the resume. They don't have a good win. They don't have a real bad loss, but they don't have a really good win either. Davidson beats VCU to get back in the hunt a little bit after, the A-10 may have several teams in the tournament. St. Bonaventure wrapped up the regular season championship the other night, and they're playing some impressive basketball down the stretch here, and they've got a really, really good team. They'd actually wrapped up in the regular season, but with 2 wins in a row over Davidson. But VCU and Davidson, St. Bonaventure, and it's one other team which I'll probably get to in a second that is definitely still has a shot there, but we'll dive more into that in a second. Clemson with a big win over Miami. Clemson's starting to play much better. Their defense is what carries them. So, I think Clemson, everything they do now is to improve their seed. But they could do some damage in the ACC. The ACC's down this year, but there's Florida State's, I think, the cream of the crop there. But Clemson now is playing like they did earlier in the year. UConn with a big win over a bad Marquette team. But UConn needs to continue to win and probably win a game or so in the Big East tournament to ensure they get in. They're kind of hovering around the bubble. Oregon with a big win over Cal. Important win for them. They should be in. Florida, again, to go back to some comments, I think it was Ken Gifford last week, keeps thinking Kentucky's getting in. Kentucky's not getting in. No way. They have a bad loss yesterday to Florida. Florida's kind of on the bubble, probably in. Yeah, and the SEC's down. A lot of leagues down this year, and it's hard. It's hard because of the whole COVID thing, right? But Kentucky had a big lead in the first half of this game and just really squandered it badly. So those are some of the games that really affect what's going to happen going forward. Now, as far as where we are and where we stand with some of these leagues, right now you've got 68 teams that will get in the tournament. We got 25 teams that are probably locks. You got 20 teams minus the Ivy because the Ivy League decided not to play. So we got 20 teams with bids from traditional one bid leagues. I mean, some of those could be on the cusp of maybe two, but we'll talk about some of that. And you got roughly 30-ish teams available on the bubble for 23 at-large spots left after our 25 locks, right? So you've got about 20 teams with a lot of work to do yet. So we'll kind of go down the bubble here, and we'll kind of do the big conferences with their locks, teams with work to do, and then we'll kind of lump the smaller traditional one big leagues into one bucket as we go forward here. The ACC, we'll start there. The locks there: Virginia, Florida State. As I said, Clemson probably made themselves a lock if they weren't before yesterday. Virginia has struggled recently. Their strength of schedule is not the best. They lost to Virginia. I'm sorry, they lost to some mediocre teams recently, even at home. But the ACC is not that strong this year. Florida State to me is the best team in that league. So again, I see them with a lock. Virginia Tech, the teams that should be in is Virginia Tech. Now they came off like a 17-day maybe pause for COVID, and with a big win over Wake Forest, who's not very good, but to come back and win was good. But then they lost convincingly to Georgia Tech at home, and Georgia Tech still has some work to do if they want to get in the tournament. But I think Virginia Tech, given their body of work, should be in the tournament. Some work to do. Louisville, big win yesterday over Duke. Probably got them a bit closer and probably should be in. North Carolina, big win over Florida State yesterday. I think that probably solidifies unless they just fall on their face the rest of the way out, but there's only a few games left in the regular season before we hit the tournament. I think they'll be in the tournament for sure. Duke had moved their way into the conversation, but a bad loss yesterday to Louisville. While it really helps Louisville a lot because Duke is playing much better. Interesting that they're playing so much better after the Jalen Johnson incident and him leaving, not incident, but fiasco of him just deciding to leave the team because he didn't like his playing time and thought it was hurting his draft stock. Well, sorry, Jalen. Duke probably hurt themselves yesterday pretty bad, I think, with that loss. Georgia Tech helps themselves. They're probably on the outside looking in yet. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into the more of the bracketology side of this. We're kind of going conference by conference for the moment, looking at some locks and work to-dos. The Big 12, Baylor's in, Oklahoma's in, West Virginia. Don't sleep on West Virginia in the tournament. We'll get to Iowa in a second, Bill. Wait till we get to the Big 10. I love Iowa, by the way, but they had a bad loss the other night. I can't remember who they lost to, but maybe it'll come to me before we get to them. Anyway, let's stick with the Big 12. West Virginia, don't sleep on them. Texas is in, but not a good loss to Texas Tech, I don't think, the other day. It doesn't affect it'll affect their seeding, but Texas Tech and Texas so should both be in. Kansas will be in. Kansas had a big win, as I said yesterday, over Baylor to enhance their resume. And Oklahoma State should be in as a lock, but they are not necessarily in the tournament because they have a ban on postseason play this year that they've been appealing. And the NCAA rule is that, while you're appealing a ban, you can still appear in the postseason. So unless the NCAA hears that appeal in the next few weeks, Oklahoma is going to be in. Hang on a second. Something I'm going to need to look at in a second. Where was I? back to, so those are really, I don't think there's anybody really on the bubble there. I think those teams are in, and there's really no other considerations. So I think the Big 12's, going to be very well represented. They're very deep this year, and very good at the top with Baylor, West Virginia, Oklahoma, and good in the middle. You got Kansas in the middle of that league. So good morning, Kenny Gifford. Mark Robertshaw, I didn't say good morning to you. Sorry. Big East. Locks, Villanova and Creighton, as we said yesterday. Xavier really helped their cause yesterday with a win over Creighton. They're probably going to get in, I would say. Connecticut, still got work to do, but again, a nice win for them yesterday. Not a nice win. They went over a bad Marquette team, but every win's important to these teams right now that are on the bubble. I think they're probably on the outside looking in now. We'll talk about that a little more. When I jump into the next part of this, I want to go through this part real quick. Seton Hall, again, has not played up to expectations this year, but they're really well coached, and I think that Kevin Willard's team is going to make a pretty deep run into the conference tournament, and they should be in. The Big Ten, now we can talk about Iowa. Billy. Right now, the locks are Michigan, Ohio State, probably both number one seeds at the moment. Illinois, close to a number one seed if somebody stumbles at the top. Iowa, definitely in. Not a good loss the other night. Again, I can't remember quite. They lost to, I don't see it right in front of me. We'll come along to it. But Iowa's problem is they fill it up. I love Fran McCaffrey. Might be why Billy loves Iowa. I don't know what Billy's connection to Iowa is. Mine is I have a soft spot in my heart for Fran McCaffrey. Did a tremendous job here at Siena. Got up to 2 NCAA tournaments and won a game. Really good team. Really good coach. Problem is they don't play any defense. So that's always a problem. Also a lock in the Big Ten, Wisconsin and Purdue. Again, the Big Ten is really, really deep. Rutgers has been up and down. They got off to a good start, then lost 5 or 6 in a row. Billy's talking about Iowa still. Luke Garza does carry that team. He's just a machine in the middle there. But again, the team's got to play some defense. You get to the tournament, you got to play some defense. You can't just try to outscore teams every night. And defense has been a problem for Iowa for a couple of years now. But we'll see. Big Ten, back to, again, a deep team, a deep league. Rutgers should be in. They've been kind of up and down, but they got a really good team. Again, another story that kind of got pushed aside because of the tournament not getting played in 2020. Unfortunately, Rutgers is having a great season, their best season in decades. But they should be in the tournament, unless they really fall on their face in the tournament. But again, if you should be in, you got to win some games still to get in. Speaking of Ohio State, tell me if any quarterback ever made it to the NFL, not just played, but good. Well, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that right now, Kenny, but probably nobody. Right off the top of my head, I'm going to say nobody. Art Schleitzer played decent for a while until he got gambling problems. But we'll stick with basketball for the moment. But that's a great topic for the when we get to the NFL college, NFL college. Well, NFL/college conversations in the future for sure. It's funny because I'm telling you that I want to talk about college football with Ohio State, which is their forte, and basketball is always taking a back seat. But now they've got a really good basketball team and have for a while, actually, to be honest with you. Some work to do in the Big Ten. Maryland, really up and down. Mark Turgeon's done a really good job there, but they've got some good wins and some bad losses. They beat Illinois, they beat Wisconsin, they beat Rutgers, and they beat Minnesota twice. Can't really get all excited about their win at home against Minnesota since they don't win anywhere on the road. Walk ball, Kenny says. Still basketball. It's just the way they played today, unfortunately. Indiana's got work to do. I think Indiana's in trouble. I don't think just Indiana's in trouble of not making a tournament. I had an article that I shared on the page the other day. I think Archie Miller's in trouble in general. But, again, they're one of these teams. They kind of control their own destiny in a way. I think if they have a good run in the tournament, they got a shot at getting in. We'll jump on this a little bit more in a second. Michigan State has suddenly jumped into the conversation. They've been playing horrible all year until recently, where they got good wins over Indiana, Illinois, Ohio State in just their last 3 games. And they've moved to the bubble, most likely. Probably the back end of the bubble, probably the first 4 out. We'll talk more about that when we get there. And the first 4 out, to be honest with you, first four at-large teams to be left out of the tournament. It's going to be very important to have that ranking potentially, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a few minutes. The Pac-12, the only lock right now in the Pac-12 is USC. Should be in Colorado. Colorado with a nice win. USC's lost 2 games in a row. Colorado, I can't fault them for. Colorado's got a pretty good team. And they should be in the tournament. But losing to Utah last night is not a good look for USC. Again, it won't hurt them getting in the tournament, but it will hurt them seeding-wise. Also should be in. UCLA should be in. They've rebounded nicely this year. Mick Cronin is starting to forget about that Cincinnati's rough and tough and score in the 50s kind of game. First one to 60 wins the game, and buying a little bit more into the West Coast style of basketball. And the Oregon Ducks are probably in as well. Nice win for them yesterday, as I mentioned, over Stanford, who they got some work to do. They're on the bubble. Not a good loss to Oregon Oregon yesterday. I was worried about you. There's Dave Gayette makes it. Most of the Blue Bloods will get in. Well, Kenny, you and I will have a conversation come Selection Sunday because, again, Kentucky's out. Duke put themselves back out yesterday probably by losing to Louisville after getting themselves in a conversation. And to be honest with you, a lot of the Blue Bloods should be in. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a very interesting Selection Sunday, as I said. Let's jump ahead here. The SEC, Alabama's in. Arkansas, great job, Eric Musselman at Arkansas. Tennessee, even though they're stumbling here down the stretch, they're a lock right now. Should be in. Missouri should be in. Florida should be in. LSU should be in. That's it. Kentucky's not getting in. Again, a horrible loss to Florida yesterday. Not horrible, but, Florida's got a good team. But, geez, got to win a game somewhere. What's next? The American Conference, the AAC, my favorite football conference, speaking of football, Kenny. But they got a good basketball league, too. Houston's a lock. Wichita State is on a roll here all of a sudden. They were in chaos when they fired their coach, Greg Marshall, before the season. Isaac Brown stepped in as an interim. He's now gotten a 5-year contract because this team has been on fire. And right now they're on the bubble, but they're 13-4. I think with a win over Houston, to their credit, and I think they got a shot of sneaking in here. And Isaac Brown has done a great job there under very difficult circumstances. SMU, again, I doubt this league's going to get more than 2 bids, but SMU's got a pretty good team. The others that we talked about, so we grouped everybody else in. these traditional one bid leagues, but some of them may get two here. Gonzaga is obviously a lock. BYU, so Western Athletic will get two bids. Loyola Chicago solidified their being a lock no matter what happens in their tournament. Some teams from these leagues that should be in. San Diego State's had a very, very solid season. They should be in. VCU's got some work to do. They were leading. They were the best team in the A10 for quite some time, and they've stumbled down the stretch. As I said, St. Bonaventure locked up the regular season. Title. So while they theoretically should be in the tournament, they still got some work to do. St. Bonaventure. They can't just, go in and lose in the first round of the A10 tournament, for instance. Boise State's got some work to do, but they can get in. They've had a very good year. Drake, playing in the same league as Loyola Chicago, has had a very good season. But again, it's hard for these leagues to get two bids. And that kind of goes to Kenny's comment, the Blue Bloods will get in, but, and it's a double-edged sword, right? The Blue Bloods get in because, and again, this year's a little different because non-conference play has been just beat up badly by COVID. These teams have had all they can do to get in the games that they need to get in conference. Colorado State with some work to do. Richmond with some work to do. So with all that said, you're still looking at your number one seeds are still the same as they've been, and probably in the same order, I think. Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, and Ohio State. They're the first four in that order. We've talked about some of the teams that are locks. I guess the teams that are probably getting in and maybe the last four buys, so they're the most dangerous of falling out, if they should fall on their face here, is Louisville, VCU, and Boise State and Seton Hall. I'm going by Joe Lunardi's bracketology bracket here. And I'm trying to see real quick whether he still has Minnesota in the tournament. I hope he doesn't. I mean, because I really respect Joe Lunardi and what he does with his bracketology is usually pretty accurate. Yeah, he's got them out now, I think. I don't see them anywhere in here because they should have been. If he had them in, it'd have to be in these. Oh, here it is. He's got their first four out. Well, the last four buys. So, again, the last four in. Again, these teams have to worry. All 8 of these teams, the last four buys and the last four in have got to worry. He's got Indiana in, Utah in, Xavier in, Colorado State in. I don't disagree necessarily with any of those except for maybe Indiana. Again, the last four buys were Louisville, Virginia Commonwealth, Boise State, Seton Hall. Not so sure. I think VCU and Boise State are the most vulnerable there. His first four out. So, again, somebody stumbles. And this is important, too, by the way, these first four out. And I'll tell you about it in a second. Minnesota, Stanford, Richmond, Michigan State. So right now, Michigan State on a great run. Frank Gifford. Your guys' byplay in the room makes me laugh sometimes. So if I get distracted, don't take offense. Where was I here? Let me get rid of this. So again, the 8 that I just mentioned, the last four buys and the last four in, are very vulnerable still. And these first four out, other than Minnesota, I don't know how he still has them really with a good chance to get in. So the next four out, after the first four out, Duke out, Kenny Gifford, Georgia Tech out, Ole Miss out, Utah State out. Duke had played themselves into a pretty good position to get in, but again, a bad loss to Louisville yesterday. And you see these teams that have been playing each other in these four buckets of teams that I talked about, the last four buys, the last four in, the first four out, the next four out, when they're playing each other, like a lot of these teams have been playing recently, it's just not a good look when you lose to one of those teams this late in the season when the league's going to be looking, or I should say the selection committee is going to be looking very hard at those games you played head to head against other teams on the bubble. So, something that's got to be accounted for. So that's kind of my coverage there on the NCAA and where we stand with really some of the conference tournaments have started. For instance, the Albany has started their conference tournament this week. Some of the smaller schools start this week. The big schools will start the week after next weekend. As I mentioned, we'll be doing a big show on Monday the 8th about the Big East tournament and previewing that. Billy's all over Presbyterian College. I got to do a little research, Bill, but I think they're probably one of the last teams in. I mean, ever to get in. So anyway, we talked about a little bit about these last 4 outs, right? It's very important because, or first 4 out. I think I said first 4 out. Because up until Tuesday, so Selection Sunday will be, I guess the 14th of March, Selection Sunday. Now, teams after that will have 2 days to make sure that they meet all the requirements the NCAA's put into place. 7 consecutive positive tests. Billy agrees with me on Presbyterian College. Who are they? Give us some information, Bill, on them, would you? Give me the league and their record. Little Sisters of the Poor. I think they used to be the Little Sisters of the Poor before they changed the name of the school. Let me know about that. Anyway, so the deal is going to be the last 4 teams not selected as at-large teams for the original field shall be designated as replacement teams. And if they choose to be considered as such. Now, again, the teams that get selected have got to meet the criteria, that get past the test. They got to decide they want to go. They could say, I don't want to go. And then one of these teams would get in. So the thing is, what's interesting is they're going to slide in to the same spot as that withdrawing team. So again, it's probably not fair, but they've got to do something, right? You can't reseed the whole tournament on Tuesday or Monday after you've seeded it on Sunday. Let's just say, a 4 seed goes out. I don't know. Give me who somebody would likely be a 4 seed. I'm just going to throw a name out there. Let's just say Florida State. They're probably going to be a 2 seed, maybe a 3 seed. Let's just say they can't go because they don't meet the protocols, or they decide something happens and they withdraw. Well, one of these first 4 teams that I met, or the first 4 out that I mentioned, Michigan State, Indiana, I don't remember the other 2 right now, but they would slide into their bracket. So they'd be the 3rd or 4th seed in the tournament now a 3rd or 4th seed. Gosh, man. Seems like they get kind of a break there, but again, they got to put some kind of plan into place. You can't just wing it. So again, they would serve as, here they are right here. Here's my my first 4 out. Colorado State was in there. Well, this was earlier in the week, so this isn't correct, but so that's the replacement rule. But that's only good until Tuesday before the tournament starts. Remember, the tournament's starting a day late this year. There's no Thursday, Friday first round and Saturday, Sunday second round. It's going to be Friday, Saturday first round, Sunday, Monday first round, or second round. So all of you guys hoping to skip work and watch the games on Sunday, it can't happen. Now after Tuesday, now the no contest rule comes into play. If something happens during the tournament and a team can't play, doesn't matter if it's Gonzaga or Baylor with a number 1 seed, or Siena with a 16 or 15 seed. They'll win. So theoretically, a 16 could win in the first round after you get through the playing games, right? The first four. A 16 could beat a 1 in a no contest and they move on. There's no other way to do it. You can't postpone games. It would make for a mess. So it's not pretty. And given the way the regular season's gone, I don't know that it makes sense to say, oh, don't worry, it could never happen. They're going to play all the games in Indianapolis at different sites, and it's as much as a bubble as the NCAA can create, and nothing will happen. We don't know. I hope nothing happens. But that's the contingency plans that the NCAA has right now. So anyway, still a lot to go, a lot more to talk on that. Remember, as I said, my shows on Friday the next month or so will be geared towards, if I can make it happen, I'm still got a couple openings in March, but geared towards players that have played in the NCAA tournament. I've got one player that has won an NCAA tournament scheduled, Butch Lee, former Marquette Warrior, won with Al McGuire on his last season in 1977. Talked to Lee the other day in Puerto Rico. We had a great conversation. His son is playing at St. Peter's actually now, so he's a competitor of Siena here locally. But he'll be on the 12th. Next week, as I said, I've got Tony Red Bruin and Eric Santifer from Syracuse, who've got obviously had tons of experience in a Big East tournament and the NCAA tournament a couple of years when the Big East was the beast of the East, not what it's become today. It's still a good basketball league, but not what it was back in their day in the 80s. Man, what a job. And we'll talk a lot about that with these guys coming up and during our Big East preview show, which we'll do on the 8th of March from 7 to 9 with lots of special guests and lots of analysis. That'll cover us for NCAA, unless Billy wants to talk more about Presbyterian U. We're going to move on. I'm going to talk about the Yankees first, Drew. Sorry, we're going to move on to Major League Baseball. I'm going to talk about the Yankees first. Just because I'm a Yankee fan. Sorry, nothing personal. And actually, to be honest with you, there's more to talk about with the Yankees, but get your comments ready, Drew, because we'll talk plenty about the Mets here coming up. Well, hopefully plenty. But we'll talk about some other topics in Major League Baseball as well. As we move forward, so the Yankees. Last week I had a very interesting. I got to start with the Domingo Germán. I did a vlog a week ago about the distractions caused. Here, I have to tell you, there's a lot of things that people get second chances for in sports, in Major League Baseball particularly. PEDs, gambling. Well, maybe not gambling so much. Well, all sports leagues push gambling sites now, so I don't know really how they can really be so tough on the gambling, but they still are. Again, I'm not against second chances, but one thing I have a problem with is a man puts his hands on a woman. To me, character still means something, right? And I was surprised. I did this vlog and I thought, who's going to defend? How am I going to offend anybody? In fact, I said during the vlog, I hope I'm not offending anybody out there by jumping all over domestic abusers. Listen, I've lost friends who I know have put their hands on a woman. I don't tolerate it. I don't want to tolerate it if I'm running a team. I wouldn't tolerate it if I knew I was trying to hire somebody that had a history of domestic abuse. It would play into my decision making. Certainly play into my company's decision making, if not mine. And my point is, it would cause a distraction on the team. And I got a lot of pushback and people saying, "Oh, if he can pitch, who cares?" In a lot of circumstances, I care about that. I care about what goes on the field more than off the field. But I have to look. I can't overlook everything. I can't overlook this. I'll never overlook this. So he apologized. I talked heavily about the Yankees didn't need this distraction with all the on the field issues that they have. And they do have a lot, which we'll talk about in a bit. They didn't really need the distraction of Herman. And some players had already come up, had spoken about it. And guys are telling me, oh, it's not a distraction for the team. They're professionals. They're getting paid. They won't be distracted. Well, Zach Britton had already made comments that you can't get to pick who you play for. And I hope he learned his lessons. And I'm paraphrasing a bit, but a lot more information had come out after I did that vlog, and people had defended him saying, what do the players care? They get paid not to be distracted. Well, it turns out that this whole incident, or one of the incidents that led to his suspension, happened at a team function. He slapped his wife in public at a team function. Slapped her around was the terminology I heard. And it was some of his own teammates that blew the whistle on him. Rightfully so, by the way. Now, no criminal charges were pressed. Maybe he's gone through his the programs and the protocol that Major League Baseball warrants. And okay, fine. He can continue his career. I don't have a problem with that. I just don't want him on my team. I still think character means something. Amazing to me. Some of these guys who have a problem with stand-up people in sports, like Tom Brady, Derek Jeter, LeBron James. God forbid LeBron James should stand up for what he thinks. Again, I'm not going to get on a political platform here because I don't do that. But the same kind of people who berate a LeBron James for speaking his mind on political issues, social issues, think he should shut up and go away. And they don't just say, oh, what does matter? Who cares? I don't care about that. I do care about that in a different sense. They've got a right to speak their mind. But those same people who get on him and say, oh, who cares about what Herman does in his private life? I just care if he can pitch and he's a stud and this, that, and the other thing. No, not the same thing for me. So he did apologize to the team this week. Apparently it went well. I pray to God there's a no tolerance policy going forward. Because this thing should have no tolerance. Zero tolerance. All right, guys. That's about it for now. I'll stop with Herman there, okay? Some issues on the field. We got a labor problem that the league's got to address at some point. We know we're playing 7-inning doubleheaders. We know that we're putting a runner on second base to start innings. We're not playing with universal DH, but this is the last year of the labor contract, guys. They got to straighten it out. Another thing that could be a distraction. I didn't read all the quotes, but Garrett Cole had some comments about the labor tensions right now between the union and the Players Association. I'm sorry, the Players Association and the league. And again, these guys that better straighten this stuff out. This is one thing I don't have a lot of tolerance for. It's been quite a few years, but when we got close to a work stoppage, gosh, I cannot remember the year, 2008 or 2009. We got close to a midseason work stoppage again, and I swear to God I wouldn't go back if they stepped away again. One more time, one more season ruined at that time, it would have been too much for me. I'd like to say I feel the same way. I just don't know yet. I don't know how close to that type of cliff we are. I hope it isn't much. Anyway, I won't focus on that either. Let's talk about the Yankees. Starting pitching. Corey Kluber, Jamison Talon, they've gotten through the early parts of spring training, look good, but you can always look good in your uniform, soft tossing, right? Yankees have some rotation issues, as we know. Those two guys are question marks. Jordan Montgomery, good man for the back of rotation. Devi Garcia had some great moments last year, but He had some bad moments too. So what they do with those spots is going to be kind of important going forward. They got Clark Schmidt, who I love, by the way. He's one of the best Yankee prospects. He's injured now. Not sure how badly. Hopefully not badly at all. But there's some shakiness in that Yankee rotation. They do have a very deep bullpen, which is a very good thing, right? Which can cover up a lot of flaws in your starting rotation, especially the way that we played a game today and you go 5 innings and get out of there. But you still got to have healthy starters. Am I missing anything with you guys in your comments? I apologize. Hey, we've gone live, by the way. Let me see what Kenny's saying here. Kenny, I didn't see your comment while we were talking about people not caring about my comments on Herman and Drew Worth. The quest for titles and money usually makes morals flexible. I agree, but you know what? There's no bigger Yankee fan than me. I don't want him. Hopefully he's overcome his issues, his demons. But I just don't see this the same as somebody overcoming drug and alcohol problems. Anyway, I digress. Sorry I didn't see your comments there earlier. We're now live on Northeast Streaming Sports. We welcome everybody watching there and anybody who tunes in from the UK. Welcome. We got a lot of fans in the UK, by the way. A lot. We got, 15 followers now from the UK. And one of the groups I share all the shows to is a baseball group specifically in the UK. So it's exciting to have people around. And I did invite a bunch of people, and I will be inviting more to the New York Yankee Positive Nation, I think is the name of it, run by my friend Ira, who allows me to share to his group as well. And I promised to invite some people to it. So I know Rick Sherlock and a bunch of other people did join, so thank you. Back to the Yankee rotation. The Stream of Consciousness show continues. We do have a very high risk, low high reward rotation. Well, I've never heard it put quite that way, Drew, but you're right. I mean, the reward could be low, but that's the high risk, right? There is a high reward too. Those two guys that I just mentioned can pitch greatly. Kluber. Especially. But injuries will happen. You need some depth, right? How do you cover for those guys? The bullpen can cover so much, but you've got to have a deep rotation today. You can't get through with 5 guys. I mean, the Yankees got like 9 guys they're considering for spots right now. And Clark Schmidt, I started to talk about, who I love, is down a little bit with some arm problems, but they've got other options. We talked about Debbie Cruz. We got Herman. We don't know what's going to happen with him. He's not even listed on the depth chart right now. Michael King, Nick Nelson. You got some non-roster invitees like Jacine and some guys I don't even know. And you got, hopefully, Severino coming back mid-season time. Dave Traver also joined the Yankee Positive Nation. Welcome to the show, by the way, Dave Traver. Good to have you. We enjoy everybody coming in and sharing their thoughts. You got a lot of friends in the room today, Dave. A lot of Perthites join us. And people who wanted to be Perthites, but they just didn't, have the luxury of being born there. So those of us that will take great pride in that. So Yankees, pitching's always going to be the issue. Gary Sanchez, Gleyber Torres, can they regain their form? from 2 years ago. With Sanchez, it might be 3 years. I was in favor of jettisoning Sanchez before the season. And the Yankees decided not to, but they have not shown a lot of confidence in their comments about Sanchez going forward. Nobody has anointed him the starter. And we know that Garrett Cole did not enjoy pitching to him last year. So I think there's some question marks still with Gary Sanchez. How much he plays, how much he catches. Who knows what Kluber's going to want to do. I mean, again, I'm not necessarily in favor of every pitcher saying, I want this guy to catch me, right? Hang in there, guys. The mouses are getting me again. Anyway, answers to be met. Questions to answers. It's like Jeopardy. I got all the answers. You guys supply the questions. So, early stages, Sanchez has looked good. Torres has looked good. I still wonder if Torres isn't affected by every day having to play. There are other teams besides the Yankees, but I have a lot of Yankee fans that watch the show, so we concentrate a lot on the Yankees and the Mets, Kenny. But you feel free to bring any topics to the forefront to get through with the Yankees and the Mets. So yes, there are other teams, and I follow every team, but the Yankees are my team, and unfortunately, a lot of the audience's preference of topic, including the Mets. So we have that to straighten out with the Yankees is the whole Sanchez and Torres rebounding. Torres, I started to say I wonder how much of his down turn in offensively last year was tied to the fact he was playing every day at shortstop. Much more demanding position, and we'll see whether he adapts to it better in the second year. And again, last year was an aberration anyway, right? 60 games, shortened spring training. Jay Bruce is my next topic. Let's move off of Gary Sanchez. We'll be talking more about these guys as we move through spring training. Jay Bruce is brought in as a non-roster invite. I think he's guaranteed like $1.3 million or something. Does he make the team? I don't know. They re-signed Gardy. I'm wearing a Red Sox sweater. That's not a Red Sox sweater. I wore that for. That's pretty funny though. Oh gosh, I got distracted. Jay Bruce. I mean, it's a no-brainer for the Yankees to give him a shot. He's 33 years old. He's played. He's a guy who's had an up and down career. Yankees, not somebody Yankees can count on, but they need backup outfielders. I think Tauchman is probably in jeopardy now with Gardy signing. They also signed. I think I was thinking of Gardy and Jay Bruce. So they got some other options for a fourth and fifth outfielder. They don't want Stanton to play the outfield at all, which I'm really happy about. Dietrich is the other guy I was thinking about. Sorry. They did sign him as a non-roster invitee. So, again, they got some options in the outfield. Billy, you guys, that's why I come here for your guys' enjoyment. I put something on red. I do own red stuff. I'm not that big a... Brett Gardner signed a 1-year deal, by the way. 1 year guaranteed. I'm not sure what the deal was overall. For very little money, relatively speaking. You and I would love to have that money, but relatively speaking, very little money. And then you got the whole Miguel Andujar saga. Probably going to end up in AAA. There's just no place to play him. He can't play shortstop. He can't play second base. He didn't do well in the outfield last year when they gave him a shot out there. So there's just no place to play him, and it's too bad. But those are some of the questions that got to get answered this spring, and we're going to be diving into them even further as we go forward. The Mets, on the other hand, I think have a lot. The Mets have some serious questions, and I am interested in the Mets fans. Drew is one I know here. I have here. I personally, I think the Mets rotation. Look at it, can be very solid, just like the Yankees rotation. I think there's high risk, to use Drew's term, high risk, high reward here. Stroman, up and down the last couple of years. Carrasco was a great pitcher before he got sick, and hopefully he can be that type of pitcher again. Tawan Walker, I think, is a nice signing, but, he's had some injury issues. And then after that, you've got you got to find some innings eaters. David Peterson, I believe, is their fifth starter slotted at the moment. A lot can change in a month's time, right? But I don't think the Mets. We talked about this a little bit last week, and we talked about it very quickly because we had to move on to another topic. But the Mets pitchers of the last couple of years, they've traded Steven Matz. Syndergaard is on the shelf until midseason, similar to Severino. So again, like the Yankees, they've had some issues. Carrasco pitched okay last year, yes. Again, but there's always I think he'll be fine, but I don't think this is the slam dunk rotation that a lot of people think it is. It could be a great rotation, to be honest with you. I certainly feel that way, but I don't think beyond DeGrom, you've got a lot of Cy Young Award candidates here. So again, I think you got similar problems to the Yankees, and even worse problems when it comes to the bullpen. You still got Diaz as your closer. You still got Familia and Betances out there who are hit or miss given the night. They did think they had a great rotation, Kenny. And again, but things happen, right? The Mets a few times through the years have thought they had great rotations, and like other teams. Drew goes back far enough probably to remember the days of, help me out, Drew, Pulsifer, the guy they traded to the A's who became a pretty good closer. Can't remember those guys. And Lucchesi for the back end. Yeah, well, again, those are all. I like Trevor May. I like the Trevor May signing. I'm back on the bullpen now. Sorry, Drew. Basically, you get the same bullpen, and Seth Lugo's out for I'm not sure how long. Hopefully, not too long because he's a great pitcher. The Mets had talked about stretching him out and making him a starter. Drew, you can probably speak a little more whether that's still an option yet this year, but I don't think it is. Especially with now he's got some injury problems. Isringhausen. Thank you, Drew. Jason Isringhausen, Bill Pulsifer. They had four guys in that rotation I thought were going to be studs. I'm going back in time. I tend to do this. I apologize. But it happens, right? You build a young pitching staff. The Mets had DeGrom and Harvey and Matz and then Syndergaard came along and it looked like they were gonna be set. Oh, that's his name, Bill. Isringhausen. He graduated from Presbyterian University in Norway. Maybe it was Sweden. I don't know. So anyway, the Mets' health determines everything in baseball. It's a grind. 162 games, guys. 162 games. Everybody needs deep pitching staff. Drew's right. They got some guys that are like the Yankees. There's some depth there, but the question's going to always be, who stays healthy. Paul Wilson. Yeah, that was another name I hadn't thought of. Excellent call. Drew goes back to the present. Drew talks about their bullpen additions here, and I did say Trevor May is a good addition for sure. But you're still look at guys. I don't think that PC great. I heard he had tinnitus. You lost me, Bill. Diaz as the closer still is scary for me if I'm a Met fan. I just don't know what I'm going to do there. Up and down. Let's move on. Another thing with the Mets. J.D. Davis, and the Mets have tried, much of the winter to upgrade their third base situation. J.D. Davis is a nice player. Defensively, he's a liability at third base for sure. Didn't play that great last year. Played pretty well in 2019. But I don't know that he's going to be the final answer there, right? I mean, you got a couple of defensive holes here. Dominic Smith in left field and J.D. Davis. Mets tried really hard to kind of fill those voids. Oh, chasing inner housing is what he's talking about. Billy. 162 games, way too many. Should be only 100. See, I'm not in favor of just blowing the game up. I don't mind 162 games. It's a marathon. It's always been a marathon. And I like it. I'd rather not put in, extra teams in the playoffs, which thank God they didn't do this year. Back to the Mets. Second base, third base. You got McNeil can play third base too. And Drew can probably speak up to this. I'd love to hear what he has to say on this, because I think, they did sign Kevin Pillar for the outfield as well, and Alberto Almora. I don't know how much they expect these guys to be able to play left field. I know Dominic Smith had a good year last year and has grown greatly. He's blocked at first base by Alfonso, so you got to find a place to play him with no DH. I don't know. Are the Mets better off playing Villar and at second base and moving McNeil to third? I guess you can jump up. Billy agrees 162 is too many. What's next 200? Well, they haven't changed the 162. The number of games in the season hasn't risen since 1960 or 61. So they haven't changed it in 50 years. So I don't think we're in danger of it going higher. There's Drew. Defensively, yes. Well, as far as the configuration I just gave you, I know Villar's not going to bring a lot to the plate, but defense does matter. Again, go back to the Yankees and Tories. I worry about that middle infield. LeMahieu's a great second baseman, but I worry about Tories at shortstop. So I worry the same way with J.D. Davis, although it's not as critical, I guess, as shortstop. You still need to be able to field a position. The outfield's, in pretty good shape. I think the Mets' two big questions, obviously, this spring could be off the field. It's still addressing that bullpen, I think, which I don't think necessarily the Mets or a lot of teams are done. But the Mets also have to address locking up Conforto and now Lindor. Because the Lindor trade's a great trade as long as they keep him and they sign him long term. If they don't, that trade doesn't look so good. But the deep pockets that Cohen has should not be a problem, right? I think they should probably lock him up fairly easily. Let's move along to a couple other teams I want to talk about. I mean, a couple of teams that really, really had huge off seasons were Toronto and San Diego. Now, Toronto looks really, really good, right? I mean, they just have improved with signing Springer, bringing in a guy, I'll butcher his name, I can never say his name, Jinryu. These guys, We need to change your names to Smith when they get here. That's probably not terribly politically correct, but I apologize. But they have, Robbie Ray. I love again, they got some question marks, but Steven Matz is their fifth starter. And they brought in Kirby Yates to be the closer. And they already had Vlad Guerrero. Oh, they brought in Simeon to be the shortstop. They brought in George Springer to play center field. They're deep. They already had Guerrero. They already had Bichette. They already had Biggio. Guys on the rise. Now you add these veterans. This team's going to be tough. To me, they got to be the favorite to win the East. Bullpen, health, all matters. They just signed David Phelps for their bullpen, so I don't know. Again, if you're signing an ex-Yankee David Phelps, I don't know how good you're looking to be, but they've got a lot. Yeah, everything's about homers. Defense takes second base. Again, I don't like the way the game is played today, and we'll go into more detail. I'll probably have Kevin Kernan on my Friday show just before around opening day. And again, he and I are on the same wavelength here. He's the first show I ever did. The first interview I ever did was Kevin Kernan from the Post. And we both hate the way the game is played today. Guys who refuse not to go the other way and not hit into the shift and just swing for home runs. And so much of the time during a baseball game, nothing's happening. Guys walk, strike out, or home run. Don't get me going. So I like the Blue Jays a lot. And Drew had asked a question about San Diego, and I do want to go there. Let me see. Drew's got a question about. No, Toronto's rotation isn't great after you can spell out. You can phonics his name for me, Drew. I agree. Again, like every other team we've talked about, there's teams depending on guys bouncing back in everybody's rotation, which is why bullpens are important. Deep bullpens are important. One factor the Yankees have in their favor over some of these other teams is the deep bullpens. And we'll get in the coming weeks with predictions. I was going to do something with some over-unders today and talk about that, but I think we'll save that till we get a little deeper into the spring training. It's a little early because there's still guys unsigned, right? Hell, there's still some pretty good players unsigned. I don't want to get wrapped up in that because I didn't jot anything down about it, but Drew had brought up San Diego. I think I mentioned San Diego made some great improvements, and I agree. This is a team that has gone all in this year. So they're either going to give the Dodgers a run, and the Dodgers, by the way, are still loaded. Not still loaded after winning the World Series. I don't mean that, Bill. I mean they're loaded talent-wise. But look what the Padres have done in the offseason. They've added Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, and Joe Musgrove to the rotation. Couple of semi-question marks, but Lamet, these guys. God, give me Smith and Jones, would you? And Chris Paddock both pitched fairly well last year. I think their rotation is really, really good, and I think it kind of lines up with the Dodgers pretty good. What's this comment? No more double steals. Take two, go to right. Bunting, suicide squeeze. I agree, Kenny. All of that stuff is lost right now. Yeah, Lamont. I can't say Lamont's name. They got a really strong. But Joe Musgrave is their fifth starter. That's a good staff. They don't have a closer yet. They signed. What's his name? Escaping my memory now. Melanson. They got Pomerantz, who has pitched decent the last few years, but they really don't have a top-notch closer. Yeah, right. Drew mentioned the fact that we're only diving into the major league roster here. San Diego's loaded in their farm system with pitchers as well. Catcher's a little weak, I guess, but look at now they're going to throw out a lineup with Hosner, Cronenworth, who played well, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, who they just signed a huge contract, right or wrong. I mean, put the ball on a tee, and then you don't have to worry about pitchers with a sore finger. Well, unfortunately, Kenny, the game isn't played the way you and I played it. I have a big problem with the fact we pay the pitchers so much money and then they pitch the least important part of the games, right? It's stupid. We'll dive into these topics more in depth, I promise you. You know, once we get through the NCAA tournament, there's going to be nothing to talk about except baseball and the NBA. But still, look at, you got Cronenworth, who I said who can play everywhere. You got Pham in the outfield, who's a great talent. You got Grisham, who really stepped up last year. You got Will Myers, who they're talking about trading, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think with that pitching staff, and their offense is good enough that they're going to give the Dodgers everything that they can handle. That's just my take. You know, so there's some other stories in Major League Baseball that we should stay on top of. You know, there's some guys, because of either past performance, recent past performance, or teams that have really, like we said, gone all in. Home runs sell tickets and DV time. Yeah, to people who want to watch video game baseball, it does, Rick. I agree. And I don't necessarily think you're saying that because you agree with it, I hope. I don't believe that. But the way the game's supposed to be played, you know, there's nothing wrong with a well-pitched, well-played 2-1 game that takes an hour and 56 minutes. When do you suppose there was one of those last? We get one a year. Hour and 56 minutes, I think, is what I mean. We do get 2-1 games. San Diego's infield depth isn't great past their starters. I agree. Depth is a problem for a lot of teams. You know, with increased expectations comes increased heat on people too, right? So, you know, Tingler, their manager, is going to be under some pressure this year. He's going to need to make sure this team performs up to expectations. Now we can nitpick about the depth of their. Yeah, the attention span of fans has changed for sure. It's terrible. You know, we can nitpick on, you know, whether their infield depth is what it should be, or, you know, or about this position or that position. The fact remains that they went all in on a bunch of starting pitchers. They signed for Tatis to a huge contract to lock him up for the future. You got Machado and his huge contract. The pressure is going to be on Tingler. That team is going to need to make the playoffs, and they may need to unseat the Dodgers for people to be satisfied with what happens there. Where is it? It doesn't even include Clevenger for next year. Yeah, agreed. Anyway, so there's going to be some pressure on Tingler. There's going to be some pressure on Louis Rojas with the Mets. The Mets are positioning themselves to be the king of New York and knock the Yankees off the back pages. That's very important to them. And they're well on their way to doing it. You know, the Yankees have a lot more questions than the Mets, as far as I'm concerned. So Rojas is on the hot seat. Boone's on probably even a bigger hot seat because, again, they played very, very well during his tenure, made the playoffs, made the ALC Championship Series, but no World Series rings, and that's all that matters in New York, at least in the Bronx. So there's going to be some increased pressure on these guys this year. I think there's pressure on Yeah, I can't keep. Yeah, I'm not going to keep putting up all these comments. Sorry, guys. You guys continue to have that debate. We'll have it another time, but I want to keep moving forward here. The game, just to touch on it real quick, I don't disagree with anything you guys are saying. The way the game is played today, the game wasn't broken. We keep putting in rules to fix things that aren't broken. Please, and again, I disagree with with players who don't hit in the shift, but the way to fix that is not to put in a rule eliminating the shift. That's not fixing the problem. Fix the players and the way they play the game and the way we manage the game. That's how you fix the problem. That's just one problem. You know, Nolan Ryan was on a great path when he was in charge of the Rangers, and he was insisting that guys in the minor leagues get stretched out and pitch deeper into games. Agreed. I was kind of going into this just now. Linda talks about the minor league systems need more attention. And they're getting less attention. We're contracting teams. There's 40 less minor league teams this year than there were last year. This is how the major league teams decide to save money, development of players. So players are going to learn at the major league level, which they don't do. And the problem with the pitchers is that they're ingrained from the minute they get to a minor league system to pitch 5 innings, 100 pitches, whatever, 90 pitches. So that's it. Don't build up arm strength. And you end up paying guys a gazillion dollars. Trevor Bauer, Garrett Cole. Well, Garrett Cole is one of the exceptions. Garrett Cole wants a ball and go out there and pitch 9 innings. These other guys get to 100 pitches and they're looking to the dugout to get pulled out. So I said I wasn't going to talk about it, and I did. The way we play the game, the way we teach the game, the way we manage the game, all needs to change. All of it. The mindset is less is more, unless it's home runs. Teach guys to hit the other way. Need young fans. Another thing that Linda's talking about here. You know, there's big problems in Major League Baseball. The games go too late. Young people can't stay up and watch them. World Series games end at 1 o'clock in the morning. They can't go to games. Another great point by Billy. Costs too much money to take your kids to a game. I don't know, a guy with 2 kids, 2 or 3 kids, takes them to a ball game and gives them food and gets them in a game. It costs more to park now than it costs to go to a ball game when I was a kid, and I could eat and drink all day. That's what I just touched on, Kenny. You're right. 3 or 4 hour games. You can't get young people. Baseball's beating themselves with the way they play the game. They think what Rick said earlier is what people want. They think that's what young people want is home runs and high-scoring games. Well, that leads to these 4-hour marathons because it's walks and home runs. But young people think that because they live in a video game age and they live in an age of ESPN highlights. And if we don't give them an exciting game, they're going to go to the end. They're going to go to basketball. They're going to go to, because it's not just young kids. Look at the number of African Americans in baseball today. The percentage is terrible. Terrible. Because those kids gravitate elsewhere when they're younger. Not because of they're not, they don't get to watch the games. I agree. Rick's got a very good point here. I probably missed something here from Drew. I'll go back. No, I guess I didn't. His is after, but you want to see good baseball, good quality baseball. Rick talks about the Mohawks, which is a college summer league that plays in Hampshire. They play all around the Capital District here. The league changed a little bit last year, but I think they're going to be back to more normal this year. It's really good baseball. A bunch of kids at Division I level. and some lesser, lower levels in college, but most of them are Division I kids and Major League Baseball prospects. Play a really good quality of baseball. Again, and these are summer leagues, so I understand keep protecting the kids' arms and this concept, but I think you'll see good baseball here in Troy at the Valley Cats. Again, not to get on my national audience, it's going to be what the hell are you guys talking about? But they don't have an affiliation with the Astros anymore, but they found a way to get it done with an independent team, and you're going to see some really good baseball there. They do a great job at a reasonable cost. Same thing with the Mohawks. Major League Baseball isn't everything. Baseball at its grassroots, and we talked, Linda touched on this with the minor leagues. Let me get a couple of these other comments up here. I'll get back to them in a second, Drew. I got to get off my tirade here. Linda, the worst thing that happened to sports is a network that just has highlights, no connection to teams. I agree. I don't ever watch ESPN anymore. Ugh. Frontier League should be interesting in Troy. I agree, Drew. I think it's going to be very interesting what they do. They run a great operation in Troy. The Astros are foolish to have kicked them aside. They really are. I'll tell you what, this league, this area could probably support a double or triple A team. We had double A here, if I remember when the Albany Colony Yankees were here. I think they were double A. This area can support probably triple A baseball. They do a great job out there. You'd have to build a bigger stadium, I understand, but they can do this. Joe Bruno Stadium is what I'm talking about. Billy. Off on a tangent. Stream of consciousness Sunday. I love it. You guys get me going, and I like it. Thank you. Thank you for the input. Keep it coming. I love this type of show. You guys make the show go. Drew wanted to get back to the teams. The White Sox have done a very good job this year. I agree. Let's take a quick look at that. And it's funny because that'll kind of segue into my next topic here, Drew, that I really want to talk about with Major League Baseball. So let me jump here to the White Sox for a second. I just want to bring up something so I have it in front of me. So the White Sox, again, very, very good team. Underrated starting rotation. Added Lance Lynn to it this year. Not a superstar, but he's a Major League Baseball player, I guess, when he's not pitching for the Yankees anyway. Liam Hendricks is, he's a nice closer. I don't know if I agree I like the deal they signed him to, but that's besides the point. They play really good baseball. They played great baseball the last two seasons. Last year, they kind of stumbled near the end, and it cost the managers their job. But Abreu is just a monster at the plate. Tim Anderson, one of the most underrated players in the game. Tim Anderson at shortstop. Adam Eaton, really nice player. All these guys, they got a nice lineup, up and down the lineup. And interesting enough, they bring back Tony La Russa, which was my next topic. I like Tony La Russa a lot. I think Tony La Russa, even though I blame him for some of the things that we've just talked about, specialization in pitching, situational players, certainly situational pitchers, one-inning closers. He's responsible for a lot of this, but he's a great manager. Won World Series with the A's. He won World Series with the Cardinals, too. I was surprised when he got out when he did, but he's been out quite a while now. And the question's going to be, because Tony La Russa was not. Let's see, let's bring this a comment up here while we're talking about it. La Russa, excuse Reisendorf is an idiot. To me, this is, I was surprised they fired their manager last year. His name's escaping. I think it was Renteria. Correct me if I'm wrong. But to bring Tony La Russa back at this age, in these times, the way the game is played, again, what we just talked about, he says he can get by with the bat flips, he can get by with this, and Tony La Russa in the past has not been very tolerant of this type of individual expressiveness necessarily. Tony La Russa's been accused of, I don't want to make this sound too harsh, but having trouble relating to cultural differences. I don't like the bat flips. I don't like the thought that it's just excused away as a cultural thing and let me express myself. I know I'm a dinosaur. I know I fall into the Bob Costas way of thinking, but Tony La Russa is going to struggle. So if you just take that, all the things that we've just talked about, well, we need managers like Billy Martin. Yeah, you know what? But the game, again, they would change the game. But Tony La Russa is not going to change the game. That's what the unfortunate part is. We can't get Billy Martin. Well, Billy Martin's not alive, of course. But Billy Martin would be 90-some years old. Tony La Russa is a 76? And, well, here's my problem. Young team and use of analytics makes this a bad move. You know what, though, Drew? I'll be honest with you. Analytics, schmanalytics, I hate them. They've ruined the game of baseball. Everything's analyzed. I don't care about exit velocity. Get me going again. I think the game will change. Tony La Russa is a bad fit for this team, guaranteed. What you need is young managers like Billy Martin, as Kenny just said, or Tony La Russa, or 100 more I can think of, to change the game back to where it was played. They fixed something that wasn't broken. They thought they were going to put home runs, derbies into play here during games, and it was going to attract young players. Well, it doesn't. They're watching the NBA. Right. So it was Renteria, yeah. He should have been retained. I agree. He'll get a job. He got fired twice, by the way, after doing really good jobs. He did do a bad job with the Cubs when he got fired. Now they hired Joe Madden and they won a World Series. Now he's done a good job with the White Sox and he gets fired for Tony La Russa. Martin, Weaver, Lasorda, May. Not last in today's day. I agree. It's too bad. I understand society changes, right? I have to move along a little bit. I'm tired of reading the analytics. I'm tired of reading about exit velocities. I'm tired of reading about WAR. I'm tired of hearing that a guy, winning 25 games isn't important, and at 30 home runs and 100 RBIs and 30 stolen bases doesn't tell the whole story. Jesus, it told the whole story for 125 years. Sparky Anderson, Kenny brings up. Great point. Another great manager. And it's not the managers that have ruined the game. It's the people running the teams, the front offices that have ruined the game. Yeah, and yet there's Dusty Baker there in Houston, but he was on a hot seat last year. Who do you think's making out the lineup in Houston? You think it's Dusty? I got a problem with all these teams. The managers aren't really managing teams anymore. In most cases. Many cases. It's not the way, again, that's what's ruining the game. That's what's making the games go 3 and 4 hours. Let's get back to basics. Stop fixing things that aren't broken. Find some young managers. Let them have their way. The guys who are like young guys who will manage the way the guys we just talked about. And maybe we can change the game. Stop putting in rules to fix things. Again, don't put a rule in to fix a shift. Not the way to fix it. Just play the game the way the game was meant to be played. Hit to where the guys aren't. Move base runners. Make productive outs. We don't care about productive outs anymore. Swing for the fences. Doesn't matter if there's a man on second and third, nobody out. Swing for the fences. It wasn't me. Billy, it wasn't you that set me off this week. It was everybody. It's all your faults. Linda says it's miss a signal and said, I agree with a lot of this, right? GMs. Linda talks about the GMs. Yeah, they're making out the lineup cards. Should GMs look at GMs have a job? Bring in talent. Coaches have a job. Managers have a job. I don't want my shortstop managing the team or being the GM. I don't want my quarterback, if we want to talk about some of the things we've talked about in the past, running the team and putting filling out the rosters like Deshaun Watson wants to do. And Aaron Rodgers wants to do. I'm off. I'm really off now. Really off the rails. What did Billy say? Smaller gloves, softer ball, higher mound. Well, again, some of that, I raised the mound. I'm all for raising the mound. And a softer ball, maybe just go back to making it the way that it used to be. Don't, but I guess that means I'm agreeing with you. Put pressure on opposing teams with small ball. I agree, Linda. Or Mac. You guys are always messing with me. I never know who it is. Nobody puts pressure on anybody. This whole, oh God, my head's going to explode. Aaron Boone, I think has gotten kind of a bad rap with Yankee fans, to be honest with you. A lot of Yankee fans hate Aaron Boone. Oh, Kenny likes maybe me losing my head exploding, I think. But so I'm just going to talk about. They put in a rule like put a man on second base. A stupid rule, by the way. Put a man on second base to start extra innings. Does anybody play to move the guy up? Aaron Boone doesn't. The Yankees didn't get that situation last year until very late in the season. Then it happened in a postseason, and he mismanaged it every single time. Did they move the guy to third to get a guy on third with one out? Not one time. Not one time. Now you put in a rule and it's supposed to shorten games, but you're not trying to shorten games because you're going to swing for home runs, so why do I need a guy on second base? Kenny likes it. I'm not sure what he likes, but oh, God. I get on these rolls, man. And a lot of times I do this on my vlog, and now you'll probably have me doing a vlog on this again. I might have done it one already. I got to make sure so I don't get too redundant in my vlogs. But, oh, God. I can't put up your comment about Rodgers, Rick, because I'm on baseball. I opened the door, though. You're not impartial. Oh, gosh, my gosh. Oh, the turmoil. Yeah, I know. I get this way. It's stream of consciousness. I have fun. That's why I like what you guys do for me here. Unless it's Billy bashing Brady. That's a different story. All right. What else, guys? Set my head off. What else was I going to talk about with Major League Baseball today? So we've talked about some guys on the hot seat. There's some GMs on the hot seat, too. Obviously, these teams, the Rockies are on the hot seat with both Black and Burditch, the GM, because they just have done nothing. That team's in disarray. And the GMs who would put these teams together for the Blue Jays and the Padres and the Mets, they're going to be under a little stress. Brian Cashman should be under some duress. I do not know how Brian Cashman still has his job, but that's just me. That's what Drew got here. AL West and NL Central are wide open. We're going to discuss all this more in much more detail as we go along. I just kind of wanted to get the ball rolling today with some stuff, and we got way off the beaten path, but thank God I had you guys to bring me back. I want to give you a name. I want to give you one name, one young guy to watch out for this year. I didn't mention the turd today. Not nice, Billy. Not nice. That's too easy to do. Where was I? All right. I was on MLB. I didn't even change my little banner, which I wanted to do. Guess I won't stay there. I'll just stay there. One name to watch, and we'll talk more about during spring training about some young guys to keep an eye on. I'm going to give you one name right now. Brian Hayes, third baseman, Pittsburgh Pirates. Charlie Hayes' son. Great player. Has some great minor league seasons. I'm friends with Charlie on Facebook, and been trying to get him on my show, and I haven't been able to do it. I hope to during once we get into April and get back focused on baseball on my Friday show. Because I'd like to talk about his son and Charlie's career. Charlie was a huge factor in the Yankees '96 World Series. But this kid and Charlie has posted a lot of video about his son, and oh my God, he's going to be the real thing. And, he might have some growing pains, but I don't know. I think we're talking about the same guy. I'm not sure, Drew, when you put this up, but I'm very excited to finally get to see him play at the top level. Time we got 10:42. I haven't touched on the NBA. We're going to touch real quick. Time alone. Yeah, there's going to be lots of them. You guys start thinking about your young guys who are about to break through, and we're going to talk about them here in the coming weeks. So I promise. Do your research, get them together. We'll talk about them all as these teams start to take shape. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let me move on here. We're going to move on and talk about the NBA real quick, and we're probably going to get out of here because we're running out of time. Real quick on the NBA. The Knicks. Watch my vlog. Knicks are 17-17 in fourth place now in the East. The East is kind of weak. I made a bad mistake in my vlog, though. I didn't mention Philadelphia somehow. There's a couple of good teams in the East. Philadelphia, who I forgot to mention. The Nets, who have played very, very well, even though they lost badly to Dallas the other day. But they've been without Durant for 9 of the last 10 games and still played well. But I digress. And maybe Milwaukee will jump back into this conversation. Oh, God, now I'm leaving somebody else out probably that I didn't. But I left out Philadelphia yesterday, so I apologize. Anyway, I'm not saying the Knicks have a chance to get to the NBA Finals. But the Knicks are in fourth place in the East at 17-17. And they're playing really good basketball. And my vlog was about whether you should continue the process and worry about developing these kids or go for it and go for the playoffs. Well, is another worried about Tiger Woods? I'm not necessarily worried about Tiger Woods. It's a horrible thing what happened to Tiger Woods, but whatever. He's made a lot of money. He's had a great career, and he didn't lose his life, thankfully. And he'll be okay. I don't doubt that he'll come back and play. He's a tough guy. Got me Keith Engel Jr. Not sure what that's about. Oh, maybe Billy's talking about. Who am I talking about? The Knicks. Watch the vlog. I really think the Knicks can do both. They can continue the process in developing these kids and go for the playoffs and maybe win a round. I don't know. It's possible they could upset somebody in the first round. Possible. Not likely. It is if they get into that mid-range and get into that 4th and 5th seed range. You know, if they fall and they're battling for 8, I mean, you got a bunch of teams battling for, I mean, there's a lot of mediocre teams in the NBA right now. So there's going to be some bad teams that get in. You get in that 4th and 5th spot, you're going to play a series that you could possibly win. And then who knows? But don't do it at the risk of either trading one of these young kids like Barrett for Bradley Beal, who I love. Watch the vlog again. Love Bradley Beal. Love to see him come in here and bring what he can because the Knicks need scoring all they can. Yeah. But not, I don't know. I guess I would consider it for Beal. It's going to take a lot to get him. I just don't know if I want to see the Knicks go that way. Wow, not a golf fan? Oh, I am a golf fan. You know I'm a golf fan. I just didn't have time to touch on it today. We'll touch on it again. We're going to talk more golf, Kenny, as we head towards the Masters and major golf tournaments. We're going to talk a lot more about it. I'm going to talk about that in a second, Rick. I'm going to go through the Knicks again real quick. There's a lot of potential trades that they're talking about. Who knows? Trade deadline's going to come up after the All-Star break. I don't know that I'd make any of them. Bradley Beal, maybe, because he's a young guy yet. He brings a lot to this team. Washington's playing really good right now. If they can make it a friendly trade, I might even consider trading Barrett in that trade. I don't know yet. I got to think more about it. The trade for Drummond that they're talking about, there's a lot of, again, you get him for a second rounder probably, which isn't a problem because they got a ton. They got a ton second rounders coming up. But the problem there is he clogs up the middle, and what does it do to Julius Randle's game, who's playing tremendous? Kudos on his all-star selection. And Rose has done a great job. His relationship with Thibodeau and the way that they've interacted and had an influence on these young guards has been tremendous. The Nets are playing well. I've been very hard on the Nets all year. But they're playing really well. I mean, they just had I think an 8-game winning streak broken yesterday. Most of it without Kevin Durant, who's been out 9 of the last 10 games and 16 in total. And you're talking about a guy who's averaging 29, 7, and 5. I was down on the Nets. Not necessarily down. I guess I was on the fence. I said early in the year that this thing could be awesome or it could be a nightmare. Well, they're playing really well. And again, without a lot of their best players. Irving's hurt again. Shoulder injury. It's a little disturbing because it's the same injury that led him into 20 games last year. And again, wherever I think about Kyrie Irving, he's not a bad basketball player. I just don't know about his personality. A couple of his teammates came to his defense this week and said, you got to know him. I know he thinks the earth is flat. I don't know that I can deal with that. So anyway, the Nets have played very, very well. Rick asked, has Stevens lost in Celtics locker room? Something's going on there. I'm shocked. Brad Stevens is a great coach. Great coach. I think Kenny's out of here. See you later, Kenny. Thanks for stopping in. Snowshoeing. No snow here. We're out of snow. You have a great day. Back to Rick's comment. Has Stevens lost the Celtics locker room? I don't know, but again, he's a great coach, but that team has gone in the tank the last month. Too much talent for that team to be hovering around 500. Going a little quick here with the NBA. Sorry. Anyway, I was going to go through the All-Stars. I'm not going to. We're going to wrap up today's show pretty quick because everything I'd have to do, I'd have to rush through. Right now you're looking at the Sixers and the Nets definitely the Sixers, the Nets as the the class of the East, and the Bucks are starting to rebound a bit. You got Knicks in fourth place. You got a bunch of teams bunched into that 4, 5, 6 slot, and they could bounce from 4 to 8, 4 to 8, 4 to 8. It's going to go on all year. Same thing out west, really, when you get to those positions. I mean, out west, Utah's just been the class of the West. The Lakers have been skidding without Anthony Davis. LeBron having to carry that team. I wouldn't be surprised to see them make some moves here come trade deadline. We'll talk about that more next week. But Utah's just a great story. I can't say enough about Quinn Snyder and the job he's done there. He's a really, really first-class coach. Him and Brad Stevens remind me a lot of each other. So if the Celtics do something stupid and fire Brad Stevens, he's going to get gobbled up quickly. And I think his future probably remains in the NBA. A lot of these guys come from college and great success in college, and they end up going back there after their NBA stints. But I think Brad Stevens is an NBA guy going forward. Could end up back in college at some point, but he's still a young guy. If they fire him, they're making a big mistake. Big mistake. What else did I want to talk about here? The West, the Clippers are, have played well and staying consistent. The Suns continue to surprise out there, playing really good basketball. The Spurs have kind of rebounded to 17-12. Popovich has still got them playing competitive basketball, and they've been upping their game. Same with the Warriors. Kerr's done a great job there without Klay Thompson for the whole year again. Steph Curry's kind of changed his game a little bit, but they're now, I think, 16 or somewhere around 4 or 5 games over 500 and playing pretty well. And then you got the Blazers and the Nuggets being the Blazers and the Nuggets, right? They're always kind of good teams, but never really can get over the hump. So, a lot of season left there still. One thing we got to talk about, I guess, and I'm not going to get into the All-Star. I was going to get into the rest of the All-Star team selections, but not enough time. Or maybe interest, I don't know. One thing I will tell you, the rest of the NBA schedule came out for the second part of the season after the All-Star game. A lot of teams going to play a lot of games on short rest because so many games have been moved and postponed due to COVID. These teams better get deeper. They're going to have to play deeper rotations or something because, there's a lot of bad basketball teams out there, Drew. Looking quickly. Let's just look quickly since he brought up the standings. I got to tell you guys, I've got this bad habit right now, and I got to figure out this mouse. I got a new mouse, and I keep closing myself out of the show. So what I was trying to do, Drew, was get to the NBA standings and the divisions. I tend to look at these by conference, and Drew's talking about the Southeast. Nobody over 500. The Heat are playing better, but there's a lot of mediocre teams, right? A lot of mediocre teams in the league. There just are. And some bad teams are going to get in the playoffs. I mean, if you do look at this by conference right now, I mean, the 8 to 7 and 8 seeds are under 500 in the East. Well, again, I made a big deal about the Knicks being in fourth at 17-17. So 4 to 8, they're either at 500 or 2 games below. Out west, it's a little better. At least everybody's above 500. The West has been deeper for a while. And the East is, right now, again, the Sixers and the Nets are the class of the league. I'm surprised still at the at the Bucks struggles. They have won 4 in a row. I thought the Bucks would be the only team with a chance to beat the Lakers. I did not see this happening with the Jazz, to be honest with you, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting. As I said, the back half of the season, a lot of games crammed into a very short period of time, and it's going to affect a lot of these playoff races, I think. So, all right, see you later, Billy. If you're gone, why'd you respell my name and spell it wrong? I before E, except after C or K. Keith. Well, we're going to wrap it up, guys. Listen, I didn't talk about the NFL at all today, but I do want to make sure I talk to you about a couple of things. So, again, I didn't talk about the NFL because there's so much going on and so much of it just conjecture. All the quarterback rumblings about Wilson and Watson. And there's talk yesterday that Drew Brees isn't actually retired. It's all conjecture. We'll get into it more as we get closer to the draft, but we're not going to focus on the NBA. Well, we got MLB to focus on and the NCAA tournament for the next month. But there's certainly going to be more to talk about it. And we are going to have a couple quick things I want to talk about again, real quick. March 8th, we got the Big East preview show, 7 to 9, live. I'll be doing that with Mac and Jack and in conjunction with Northeast Streaming Sports. Lots of guests, lots of fun. We'll do the same thing for the NCAA Final Four on the 31st of March, 7 to 9. We're going to host that with Big Shaw of the Northeast Streaming Sports Network, and Mac and Jack will be part of that as well, as long as a bunch of other special guests. And then I'm really excited. We're not going away with the Dave Traver. Thanks for coming in, Dave, by the way. Stick with us. We have some fun on Sunday mornings. Put up a comment. As Bill Pulver can attest, there is no stupid comments, unless pointed out by the host. And you're a Perthite, so it's very unlikely you will come up with anything very bad. I'm really excited about the 429. April 29th, we're going to do a live show for the entire first round of the NFL draft. Again, in conjunction with Northeast Streaming Sports, TGI Sports Talk. Mac and Jack from the Mac and Jack Show will be my guest hosts on that show. And we'll have a lot of people coming in. We'll be talking about all the picks and dissecting the picks before and after they're made. And we're going to have a lot of fun that night. And we'll maybe have some news about the Hall of Fame, the Basketball Hall of Fame inductions as well. I think that's in May. I'm not sure. I'll talk more to Mac about that. Anyway, guys, we got a lot in. I know I got off on a couple of tangents today, but that's what we do on Sundays. I love it. The back and forth with you guys is awesome. I had an awesome time today, as I do every Sunday. Hope you did. All of you that watch it later, please share. Like the show, follow the show, share the show. That's how we grow. We're pushing towards 1,000 followers on TGI Sports Talk. Northeast Streaming Sports, go like that and follow that too. There's some other great shows, not just Mac and Jack, but some other shows as well that I don't have time to mention or have them in front of me right now. But go and like and follow that. We put this thing together less than a month ago, and we're pushing towards 1,500 followers. And it's all because of you guys that watch it live with me and watch it later. Thank you so much. I'll be on live Friday, 8 o'clock Eastern Time with Tony Red Bruin and Eric Sanifer from former Syracuse University Standouts. Join me then. See ya. Have a great Sunday.